Welcome to the CU 2.0 podcast.
Hi, and welcome to the CU 2.0 podcast with big new ideas about credit unions and conversations about innovative technology with credit union and fintech leaders. This podcast is brought to you by Quillo, the real-time loan syndication network for credit unions, and by your host, longtime credit union and financial technology journalist Robert McGarvey. And now, the CU 2.0 podcast with Robert McGarvey.
Two threads run through this show: the human impacts of AI and the credit union of the future. Ultimately, those threads are connected. If a credit union is its people, what is it when AI does an increasing amount of the work in a credit union? On the show to explore these ideas is Nenuca Syquia, CEO of BoxD, Better Organizations by Design, a Silicon Valley consultancy. Herself a longtime credit union member, Nenuca is convinced there are important roles for credit unions to play in our lives in the future. And part of getting there is asking and exploring tough questions such as, what happens to our people as agentic AI takes over more and more tasks? What happens indeed? Be prepared to mull on very big ideas as you listen. Listen up. Now let's go back. I've been talking a lot, as you realize, about AI and institutions.
Mm-hmm.
The sound of AI is drowning out a lot of things in credit unions right now. Yeah, everybody.
And it's not just credit unions; it's all industries, Robert.
Yeah.
Where there's a lot of routine work happening.
I talk to people and they say, I've really become good at AI. And they tell me what they're doing. I say, honestly, in the scheme of things, you're about 1% into it.
Yes.
You're asking it questions, and that's the extent. This is not using AI. I mean, it is, but that's not the power of those tools. It's
Agreed.
The power of the tools is much deeper than that. So, what is the human dimension to AI? I assume, and no one's told me this, but I assume that credit union employees, many of them are terrified that they're going to lose their jobs because of AI.
Very true. And again, not just credit union employees.
Oh,
across
no,
the board,
I've seen
it is a
charts.
fear that's shared. Yeah.
If you work at a PR agency, you're on life support. It's if you work in journalism, you're on life support.
Yes.
Probably pretty soon an AI thing's going to they're going to replace me. I mean, what can I say? They actually could, because I know that AI LLMs are downloading all of my podcasts. And I think they could probably instantly reproduce my voice if they wanted to. So,
which is frightening if you think about it.
Actually, to me, it's cool. It's like, okay.
Depends what it's used for, Robert. I think like most things in life, the technology can be value neutral. It's the end to which you use it, which determines if it's going to harm society or not, if it's going to be bad or good.
So let's go. So tell me, AI credit union employees, what's there to say about that other than you may lose your job?
Well, let me give some context too for my answer. Like, where am I coming from? So, BoxD, Better Organizations by Design, the firm that I founded and I run, we deal in the space of organizational transformation, organization design. So that means designing work. That's what I'm going to focus on. The other work that we do is around how teams and leaders work together to actually deliver. So now, given that context, I do want to share my thoughts then on what credit union employees and leaders can expect with AI coming into play. I know credit unions are very skittish about doing workforce reductions, rightly so. Like, it's not something that is part of their culture. And so then the challenge then becomes, how do we reallocate people's time and their skills, and also change how roles themselves are designed? So you can think about it, Robert, as if we are using AI to take care of a lot of the routine processing, like things that don't require as much of a human in the loop other than for them to verify, validate that it's correct. And their role can shift then, instead of spending time on that, to shifting towards more advisory and coaching work. And that's, again, one of the big reasons why people come to credit unions is they want that relationship factor. So I think AI actually presents an opportunity for people to lean in more to that relationship-based service that they want to offer. You could also think about how that frees up time for people to be more embedded in the community, for employees to be more embedded in the communities, bringing new members in, providing wraparound services for them. I also think, and this one is an example that's close to home for me. I think AI presents a chance to see people shine in different ways. So our finance director here at Box, she has a bookkeeper reporting into her, and she started offloading more and more work onto her so that she can focus on building us dashboards. What could have taken us like months and months to do, she is doing it several hours in a week. And the excitement that I see in her eyes as she's working on it, like it's like new life has been breathed into her role. And I see that happening in other places too. But for me, it's so meaningful because I see it happening firsthand with us.
People say, geez, isn't AI a threat to me? What would you say?
It's actually a chance for you to rethink how you work and how you spend your time. It's an opportunity to focus on things that you can that really light you up from a work perspective. Robert, have you heard of the concept of strengths as it pertains to the workplace? Not so much strengths like what am I good at?
No, I haven't.
Let me dive in more to that. When I talk about strengths when it comes to work, I think about things that you are not just good at, but that truly energize you. And research shows that when you find that sweet spot of the thing that you are good at and the thing that energizes you because of your personality, because it builds on skills that you already have, performance goes through the roof. Because there can be things that you are good at, but you don't necessarily enjoy. Like, I happen to be really good at creating PowerPoint presentations. That is not the joy that I have in doing. But in my previous lives, a lot of my team members would come to me to do that because it was something that I happened to be really good at. So when you find that thing of skill matching interest and desire, people will do anything that they can do to get even better at that. And their performance will go through the roof, and engagement also increases. So by removing some of the things that are a little bit more routine, for lack of a better word, you allow people to lean more into that strength side. So I think I encourage people to think of, instead of AI taking my job away, what new possibilities is it opening up for me? Is the question that I would encourage people to ask themselves.
Well, shouldn't credit union leadership be asking themselves that same question, both personally, but also, what am I communicating to the employees here?
1000%. We also have to think of, what does it signal to our people if you are not redesigning work? And let's say we had this one CHRO that I was talking to, not of a credit union, of a tech company. And she was talking with so much excitement about how they had onboarded their first agentic employee. They assigned it an employee number, which was wild to me. They gave it a name, they gave it a badge, a username ID. And the thing that I was pressing her on is they had onboarded this agentic AI into a role that other roles also exist. Like, humans are occupying those roles. I was like, the signal that you are sending to people by creating this 1-for-1 is that you are going to be compared against a machine that literally never has to take bio breaks, that literally never has to sleep, and it works at a much faster processing speed than a human would. And it reduces the employee to then like what they can just produce. And this is in the example, Robert, where I'm saying there's like a 1-for-1 switch out. The example that I was using prior is when you are taking aspects of the work again that can be automated, that can use different types of analytics to be able to do things differently, and then shifting the focus of the work. So you're not replacing 1-for-1, you're changing the jobs of people. We're not replacing the people, we are shifting what they're doing.
You're also, in that case, inviting employees to feel great enmity towards this agentic
exactly with how they were rolling that out. I was like, I think they were too excited. They were too wrapped up in the thrill of being one of the first to do this. And I was like, think of what you're signaling to your people.
Yes, if I remember the story correctly, the original Luddites, the term Luddite stems from, were people working in sewing in England. And as sewing machines came in, fewer of them were needed. So they decided to break the machines. Now, this was not hostile to technology, it's hostile to being out of work.
That's right, Robert.
Yeah,
I love it.
it's
I mean,
now
the deeper
used
need.
to
Yeah.
express hostility to technology. But fundamentally, these people were looking at, well, I can starve or I can break this damn machine and hope we go back to the old ways. Yeah,
Again, because that's like a true
if you,
replacement instead of a
if
reshaping of what was possible for the people who were formerly doing the sewing.
yeah, and this is a real struggle for credit unions because there's a lot of work that they're going to want to put in the hands of agentic AI. That's just fact. Some of that work will involve displacing human beings. That's also a fact. And then, so what do you do then? It's
So one is there's the reskilling as you're so new roles actually might open up, Robert, in the case of this, where if you're taking away more manual or routine work that can be done by machine, and you're going to create roles that require more human judgment, more relationship building than is required, more creativity also, it opens up new possible roles that had not been foreseen before. The other thing that I think of is that it will also change what is considered a high performer. So instead of looking at the volume of work or the effort that somebody is putting into it, leaning into AI and shifting again how work is done and how roles are designed, you're leaning more into an outcome or results based performance culture, which I think would benefit credit unions as well. And again, it's also something where it's a way to not burn out your people because you're not asking them to work really long hours to get to the same outcome. Instead, they can constitute their day differently because there are parts of their job that now are being taken over by AI. And they can focus again on the things that only they can do as human beings.
I guess if I were talking with senior executives and credit unions about adopting AI, I tell them, A, you got to do it. B, I think I'd start by making a list of tasks I believe AI could perform about as well as humans do. And then I'd look for a subset in that category of jobs that humans wouldn't mind giving up.
Yes.
And I think I'd start with that as the first place.
I might actually flip that, Robert, because if the concern is that people are going to be fearful of AI coming for their jobs, instead of thinking of what work could be replaced, let's flip that on the head and start with what work is painful for our people to do. Painful because it takes a lot of time, painful because it's error prone, and therefore they always have to go back and check their work. Start with what hurts them today, and then work backwards into, okay, how can we automate this? How can we use AI to make this a lot easier for people? So start with them. That's making a people first decision.
Yeah, I talked with a credit union some time ago that was implementing essentially AI-driven collections, debt collection. And my attitude was, geez, if I was an employee and you came up to me and said, hey, call up these 6 deadbeats, I'd say, I ain't going to do that.
The people, Robert,
they're just going to curse at me. I know that. I don't want to be cursed at, so I'm not going to make those calls. But I'm a more independent person than many people. I would actually say I ain't going to do it. Most people would do it begrudgingly.
I don't think most people can say no to their bosses.
Yeah, most people would do it, but they do it begrudgingly with very little commitment. And after the 3rd ring, they'd hang up because there was no one there, or maybe 2 rings. That's good enough. It's However, if you came to me and said, I'm going to give all this work to AI, I'd say, hallelujah. It's wonderful.
Exactly.
Please do give that work to AI. I personally hate proofreading documents. If someone said to me, well, we can have AI do it, I'd say, great. I'm not good at proofreading either, but it's so, I mean, I'd love to. AI can do that. Yes, 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 yes. So there are tasks that everybody wants to give up. And in many cases, the machine can do it as well or better.
Let's use that example, Robert, of hating to make the collections phone call. And I can relate. I would hate to do that too. If I had to do that, I'll be honest, I would not want to do that.
Well, you
And when
must
I
you
feel,
must have some clients who are slow paying, right?
oh, yes, and I'm not the one who has to make those calls. Robert.
Good, good.
Exactly, for that
I mean,
very
I
reason.
was a partner in a PR agency many years ago, and yeah, actually the partners made the calls. It was painful,
Well,
but
okay,
at
so
least
going back
at
to
least at least we weren't going to inflict that burden on our employees.
yes, yes, and other credit unions in the future don't have to too with the help of AI. And okay, Robert, let's take the thread that I was pulling out earlier, which is how it reshapes people's jobs. So let's say AI takes over doing the automated calling to get to remind people that they're behind in terms of payments. You can now have somebody step in, and instead of having a you're behind, you owe a payment conversation, it's more of a check-in or a coaching conversation like, oh, it looks like things are a little bit tight. Do you want to explore options or what's going on in your life? It creates this opportunity for the credit unions to show up more as partners in people's lives rather than a collection agency or a collection body. So do you see how it's shifting how people spend their time, and it will shift even the mindset that people have as they're doing their jobs?
When you think about a credit union, what percentage of jobs do you see shifting over to AI?
Oh, I would be know-it-all if I gave you an exact number, but I would say it's all the jobs that are very routine, where there are defined rules in place that allow the LLMs to make decisions. Anything that requires heavy amounts of content production, also, those are the two spaces where I would see a lot of the jobs getting rejiggered, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, I know a credit union that's eliminated all of its teller positions. Basically, you use an ATM. Now, that credit union was very humane. They did not fire a single person. They they put them into new roles, et cetera, et cetera.
I love
And
that because that creates like a new kind of social contract or psychological contract between employers and employees, so that it's not just your this specific contribution, but they can have multiple careers with you because you are committing to reskilling them also.
and a certain percentage of the employees quit because they wanted to be tellers, so they went to another institution. That was fine too. That was their choice. We're just not going to have to support that job here anymore. And they had anticipated that a certain percentage would do exactly that. So it doesn't, just because we're doing something that's automated doesn't mean you're not needed in this institution anymore.
Exactly. But let's let your other talents shine. Let's discover what those are and put you in a role where you can really lean into that. And if you think about it too, Robert, this can be very helpful from succession planning standpoint, because now you have people that you're going to be moving around, getting different aspects of the business under their belts. It will create greater resiliency in the organization. I also think about how leveraging AI actually helps with business resilience in general, in the sense that, especially with credit unions and a lot of mission driven organizations that we work with, you have people there that tend to stay for a very long time. And so that means they typically have a lot of wisdom and judgment in their brains. And they make a lot of calls. There's a lot of nuance in the things that they do. Being able to document that, codify that, and bake it into your systems allows for a more even member experience versus relying on this one person on Nenuca who's working at this specific branch, and when she leaves, my member experience is no longer the same because they no longer know as much about me as Nenuca knew about me.
Well, one thing that's painfully obvious in a lot of newspapers in America is that as they've downsized and gotten rid of older people, they've lost a lot of institutional memory.
Exactly, yes.
Which is irreplaceable. Once it's gone, it's gone. I know at least one case where an institution did bring a guy back after a year or so, realizing that they needed somebody to remember the past.
I know more than one institution, Robert.
But he drove a really hard bark. he really made it worth his while. More power to him.
Good for him.
But well, he was not happy about being downsized, and then when they came crawling to him, he was basically saying, "Well, it's going to cost you." So,
and Robert, that actually it does highlight a real risk when it comes into leaning into the AI space, which is once you get far enough away from actually doing the work, you're now at the stage where you're using judgment to be able to see if something is good or not, right? Like if the work output is good or not good. Right now, you still have a generation of workers and leaders who have done the work and therefore can really tell if it's good or not. So the danger in sometimes divorcing the human from the actual work too much is that you will have people down the line who don't know what good actually looks like anymore. So there's still a need to have that backbone of like specific technical skills that are being replaced by AI, still knowing how to actually do them.
where are you located?
I'm in the Bay Area, so you'll hear me talk a lot about tech companies because I'm right in the heart of Silicon Valley.
Right, you're in Sunnyvale, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, you're in the heart of Silicon Valley.
Yes. And when I think about engineers, Robert, like they know how to code now. They're barely writing any code now. They're just auditing. They're checking the code. They're refining it. But down the line, people are still going to have to know how to actually check if it's good or not. And the way they know it now is they have written code in the past.
The best tech companies they know human capital, human intelligence is really the thing that will distinguish them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's why OpenAI is walking around with a giant checkbook to hire AI coders.
I have friends
now you need to be immensely talented to
Yes.
get those jobs. I understand that, but still, and Google has always stockpiled really brainy people. Google's a ruthless company. They hire a lot of people, but a lot of people are gone within the first year. I mean, their standards are quite high. And they invented most of LLM AI anyway, and then gave it away, which was quite stunning. I wonder if Larry Page regrets that.
Well, I think it allows the field to advance faster.
I think that's why he did it. But the other reason they did it, which is technical,
strategic generosity.
Another reason they did it was that there were wise people there who looked and said, "My God, this thing was really threatening our search advertising business. This is terrible. We don't want to do it." But they've come around to seeing that they can still make a lot of money. Now, are the people in Silicon Valley concerned about AI replacing them?
Yes. And I would say this is true more from the younger generations because there are some other companies that I would say it's a little foolhardy, in my opinion, where they are pushing the lower level tasks again towards AI and they're then hiring more senior talent and not hiring junior talent. But hello, that's your pipeline for talent. And the companies who are doing that, they're going to be for a world of hurt a little down the road.
Well, I've read stories like in the New York Times about how kids who are graduating with computer science degrees, and they went into that thinking this was the ticket to ride, this was a short path to the upper middle class, are unemployable. There are no jobs for them. Now, if you're really good and really, really, really smart, yeah, there's a job for you. You can't just come out of a mediocre computer science major at a mediocre school and expect to get 10 job offers. You're lucky if you get one, which is kind of sad definitely sad for those kids. But it shows you the Claudes and the Open AIs and the Geminis are doing a lot of the coding now. So,
and it also speaks to just how quick this has changed, like how, because AI has been around for a long time before it hit mainstream in the recent years. So I think some people forget that, like, it's been around for a while. We just didn't know we were not using it as a general public.
Well, machine learning goes back 20 plus years.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's a predecessor component to today's AI. LLM is new, but a lot of the rest of this stuff was in process a long time ago. And
if you think about how quickly this shifted in the last few years, right? These kids were still in college when when AI was mainstreaming. Yeah. And now they're like, oh, it's a different world for when they got into school and when they're exiting school. And the pace of change is just going to intensify. And so for the credit unions and again, other industries as well, the need to be able to respond to that kind of change or go along with it rather than have it be done to you is paramount, because the pace of change is not going to stop or slow. What organizations need to figure out then, or what leadership needs to figure out for their organizations, is how then they keep up with that. How they
so in financial services in particular, I know more about that business than other businesses. The primary use of AI today at companies that are actually using it rather than just playing with it is automating things that can be automated easily. And the goal is cost reduction, cost reduction, cost reduction. As those big institutions, and it's primarily the big ones that are playing that hard, lower the costs, this puts immense pressure on things like credit unions because their costs become a burden. Cost become a handicap when you're trying to compete with a Chase or a Bank of America that's automating more and more and more and getting more and more and more efficient. And you're staying the same. This is not a healthy way to go about life. It's
agreed. It's like the floor is being raised on them, and you have no choice, but you have to also step to that new floor because the floor is just getting raised.
Yeah,
I've seen. Not dropping. The floor is getting raised.
I've seen data that argues that an institution like Chase can beat pretty much any credit union on any product that Chase wants to offer. And that's without losing money on it. It's not doing loss leader sales. Now, when you talk to credit unions about AI and the human issues, and I agree, most of them are kind of closing their eyes to that. What do you find they say when you ask them?
Well, they're very focused on the technology side of this. And I would say this isn't just about AI, but it's technology in general. And technology is an important piece in driving change or changing how the organization functions. But the people themselves also interacting with the technology, they have to change. We have to change how work is designed. We have to change how people spend their time, the people's mindsets related to it. Resting just on if we buy the right piece of technology, if we implement the right program or the right software, this is going to solve the problems, is looking at a very incomplete picture. And then people scratch their heads and are frustrated as to why they're not getting the results that they want, but they haven't changed anything else about the ecosystem in which people are operating. And we haven't made it easy for people to adopt the behaviors that they now need to engage in differently because of this new piece of technology. And again, this is actually not just for credit unions, but I see this happening there, but in other industries as well.
Well, senior credit union management almost always talks about our people are our difference. That's what makes us better than a big bank. I've always had a certain amount of skepticism about that claim. And it becomes more difficult as I interact more and more with with cyber people.
You mean like with agents, like with
Right.
AI
Yes.
agents? Okay.
Yes. And I'm comfortable. I, in many cases, would rather talk to the machine than a person, because my experience nowadays is the machine is usually more right than the person that I would talk to, because the machine has access to all information. Keep that in mind.
Yes.
If it's a good machine and it's fast, it can actually scan through it. But nope, and answer your esoteric question.
And that's, I would assume, Robert, that's if you have a pretty straightforward request. But if there's something that requires nuance, the human in the loop definitely needs to step forward to still be able to address that.
Well, that could be dealt with in the programming, right? In other words, you train the machine to know, okay, if this question comes up, boot it to a person.
Yes, I'm with you on that.
So when you start this discussion with credit union people, what do they say? Oh, we're doing all of that, or we don't need to do it. What's the reaction?
It's a mix. There's definitely, we don't even know where to start. Then we're already trying a lot of different things. And now we need to translate this to how this actually changes how we function organizationally. So there is definitely a mix across the board, but everybody is talking about it. I was at this conference recently, and I think we went almost one day without saying the word AI, but of course it had to come out at one point. It did have to come up. It's the top of everybody's minds.
This was a credit union conference, right?
Yes, a credit union conference.
What was the focus of the conference?
It was around innovation. So unsurprisingly, an AI did come up.
I don't see how you can talk about innovation in the credit union context without talking about AI. I mean, that's the elephant in the room. It's
more than an elephant, Robert. It's like it's a dancing elephant. Like, you really cannot ignore it.
No, you absolutely can't.
And it's shaking up the room. It's not just standing there, it's shaking things up.
And even if you're ignoring it, Chase, et cetera, are definitely not ignoring it.
Mm-hmm,
So,
and that's what I meant by the floor being raised, Robert. It's like, this is the bare minimum now that you have to even be considered a viable option by customers, by members.
Yeah. Well, I always flash back. This was a conversation I had maybe 15 years ago with the guy who was tasked with helping a very big bank, a very, very big bank, introduce mobile banking. And that had happened some years earlier. And I asked him, so where'd you get programmers? And he said, oh, that was easy. I just went out and got a new cell phone, loaded a bunch of apps on it, decided which ones were cool. And this will give you the timeline. And I identified Angry Birds and Farmville as places we want to get programmers. And I said, why? That's nothing to do with banking. He said, oh, I know about banking. We know about banking. These guys are really good at programming and engagement.
Yes.
And I said, did you hire them? And he said, yeah, our HR went out and hired a bunch of them by waiving a ton of money, I'm sure. But
well, speaking of which, Robert, like the drawing from adjacent spaces or other industries, I think that is something that credit unions should lead into. I know the credit union space is very special in that its mission sets it apart from other financial institutions out there. Like, it exists for members, not just to create shareholder value. And I think there is a lot that can be learned from other industries and borrowed, and we can take the best of what we see out there and breed it in this very special environment, which is why I wanted to talk more about like the future of the credit union. I've been giving this a lot of thought, and I think one of the ways to start shaping what that future is to start looking at other industries for inspiration instead of just looking across the street at the other credit union.
Be more specific about that, because I think, honestly, I don't think there's much discussion in the credit union world about the future of credit unions. I think the smart people are actually more obsessed with survival. What do we do to survive? I don't think they're thinking much beyond that into future.
Well, thinking of where they can draw inspiration. Robert, we work with a lot of other industries, one of them being healthcare. So, Box, we work at, I call them industries of consequence, where my philosophy is if we support the right players in these industries, we can make very meaningful change and very good outcomes happen, not just for people, but also for the planet. So we do work in financial services, healthcare, biotech, tech in general, because tech touches everything, the clean energy space. So and that's unintentional. Other than the fact that I believe these are industries of consequence, I think there's learning that can be brought in instead of just recycling the same models. And one of the things that I think the financial services industry, especially our friends at the credit unions, could really draw on is the systems thinking approach that healthcare has moved towards. I don't know if you know much about that space, and I can share a little bit more. But instead of treating health as you going to the doctor or needing to address the specific symptom, they have moved more towards looking at social determinants because they realize that other things will affect how healthy you are. Like, do you have access to food? Do you have access to transportation? Do you have utilities? Are you safe in your home? Are you experiencing domestic violence? Actually, let me pause there, Robert, before I keep going. What questions or thoughts do you have? Because I have a lot of thoughts on this.
Well, keep going, because I am interested, and I don't think I've ever talked seriously about the future of credit unions.
Well, one of the things that I love about the healthcare space, they've created this, and different companies will have like slightly different tools for this, but a health-related social needs screening tool. I actually have an example up on my screen right now. It's from CMS, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid. And here are some of the questions that they ask. You would not think like this relates to your health, but again, they're looking at how all these things play into your physical health and your mental health. Evidence shows that if you deal with these unmet needs, it can actually undo the negative health outcomes that they're experiencing. So, the first example, what is your living situation today? Options. I have a steady place to live. I have a place to live today, but I am worried about losing it in the future. And then I do not have a steady place to live. Another question is, let me scroll here. How often does anyone in your family physically hurt you? How often do people scream at you? How often do you feel lonely or isolated from those around you? Like, there are lots of different categories. Do you speak any language other than English at home? Then of course, they ask things about physical activity and substance use. Where I'm going with this, Robert, is I think there is an opportunity for financial services and specifically credit unions, again, because they put their members at the center, to take a more systems thinking approach to meeting member needs. And this can be the differentiator for them. Like, if you think about how credit unions can shift from thinking just about symptoms that their members are experiencing or that they're witnessing to the root causes that are creating those experiences for their people. So, for example, overdrafts, missed payments, those are not just quote unquote financial behaviors, those are likely symptoms of instability. And the root cause of that might actually be income volatility, or maybe they have housing insecurity. And credit unions can design offerings that address those conditions, not just a transaction. So if they have tools that help them smooth their income or allow them to create an emergency buffer fund, or if they work with other agencies to create rent support partnerships. So do you get where I'm going with this, Robert? And this is why I'm like, I think we need to
I
draw
do.
from
I
other
do.
places. Yeah.
An issue I have with the healthcare industry in America
There
is
are
that
many.
it's extraordinarily inefficient. The
Very complex, I agree.
cost per human being is higher than any other nation by a significant margin. Our outcomes put us about, I looked recently, somewhere in the 40s among nations. So, in other words, more than 40 nations have better healthcare outcomes
And
than
to
we
think this is
do.
such a wealthy country.
And yet we outspend everybody else by a big amount. I think Switzerland's in second place, but we're ahead by a good chunk of money over Switzerland. So if I'm working in healthcare, I say, golly gee, we're wasteful and we suck. I mean,
No mincing words, huh, Robert?
no reason to mince words. Credit unions they don't see themselves that way. And I don't know that they should see themselves that way. In other words, are they failing large numbers of people? Are other institutions dramatically better, et cetera, et cetera? I don't, it's not, healthcare has some major problems. But
Agreed. Or many other industries.
it needs a big fix. It's just, this ain't the fix. It's,
But Robert, this is what I meant about taking the best of what exists. I'm not saying we should import the complexities and the structure of the healthcare industry wholesale into the financial services and specifically the credit union industry. I think there is an opportunity to pick things that to think differently, to try different things out, borrow from the best, borrow the best from others, rather.
yeah, um, many financial institutions, including many credit unions, actually like bouncing checks because that's a fee collection opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And I totally agree that I think a better, more humane thing would be to look at it as an opportunity to do some financial education and some exploration rather than whacking the person with a $29 charge, which is the last thing they need since they're bouncing checks, damn it. I mean,
So
you're going to take
in this
more
case,
money away from them. This makes no sense.
yes. So in this case, Robert, what does it really mean to be member first? So this is where, again, incentives too matter a whole lot because incentives drive behavior. And metrics drive behavior too. We can tell people until we're blue in the face that we want a certain outcome, but if what they're measured on says a different story, that's what they're going to go to. I have this oldie but goodie article that I love. I think it's from the 70s, I think, but it still holds true. It's called The Folly of Rewarding A while hoping for B, where we say we want to be member first, but then we put these kinds of rules in place and these incentives because it's good for the credit unions to make money. Absolutely. We want them to be making money. But what does it mean to be member first?
Yeah. Yeah. What does it mean? And that is the way to win. I mean, that's the path of winning. I mean, first and foremost, JP Morgan Chase put shareholders first.
Exactly.
Which legally and structurally they should. Now,
Exactly.
JP Morgan Chase is quite smart. They also realize that part of putting shareholders first is to take good care of most customers. So and credit unions jump to the conclusion that therefore they're dissing their customers. No, they're not. That wouldn't be putting shareholder values first. So the credit union of the future, what will it look like? Will it exist? And when a credit union becomes like 50 or $100 billion institution, is it still a credit union?
I know that's one of the debates, but I want to hear your thoughts on that, Robert. Why wouldn't they be?
Well, credit unions have some significant historical structural issues. And the most obvious one is that historically, all credit unions were essentially seg-based, select employee group based.
Yes.
And often it was a credit union for one IBM factory, not for all of IBM, for one IBM factory. And the people who sat on the board were people who worked in that factory. So everybody knew everybody else. They really did know everybody else. They're not deluding themselves. And that model worked. It has its limitations in terms of growth and provision of services because they usually didn't provide a heck of a lot of services either. So I think the growth from there has become to some extent painful for a lot of institutions because now you no longer know all your members.
Mm-hmm.
You may only know a handful of the members. And how does that change things? Well, that means now we rely on FICO scores, not on our perception of your character and
Mm-hmm.
reliability. And there's some good things that come out of that too, because there's less discrimination, et cetera, et cetera.
Correct. It's a bias interrupter.
So I'm not saying therefore this new system is all bad. It's just a big change, though. So the path into the future, I think what I would say is that credit unions need to be considering the path into the future because the future is coming a lot faster than they think.
And whether they like it or not, time moves. Time moves, whether we acknowledge it or not.
It's coming very, very, very fast. And the younger generation is open to all manner of places to get financial services, not just traditional banks and credit unions. And so far, they're not complaining about what they're getting. So what's the role of a credit union in this mix? And how can you compete successfully against JP Morgan Chase? And you need to have answers to those questions, but I don't think most credit unions do. To go back to where we started, I think most say, well, our numbers are better than the credit union down the street. I don't care about the credit union down the street. JP Morgan Chase doesn't care about the credit union down the street. Neither should you. As if you've said that to credit unions, I'm sure you've found they're not happy to hear that.
It might be self-selection, Robert, because the ones who do talk to us are more curious, I would say, about what the future holds for them. That no, they're actually less resistant to hearing that.
So what are they telling you about how they see their future?
Definitely. One of the CEOs that I talked to said, we cannot keep functioning as shabby, flabby banks. I said, that's harsh. And so there's like a need to operate with more rigor and discipline, greater efficiency.
Get the cost efficiencies up. In other words, spend less, get more done.
But also be more innovative in terms of the member experience or the customer experience, like reminding ourselves that these are not just members, they're customers that we are here to serve, that the credit unions are here to serve. And they can choose to bring their business elsewhere if they're not getting what they need. And because sometimes I think when we think of members, these are not my words, these are somebody else's words, can lead to a sense of complacency because we're not as aggressively trying to serve them as we would a customer who has multiple options. So taking more of that mindset that we have to truly delight people, not just meet the bare minimum of what they need. And this is why I was saying that with AI, people can lean more into that relationship, ask it more of the community, the thing that makes people choose credit unions, one of the reasons that makes people choose credit unions.
And I've said on this show a number of times, I've never voted in a credit union board election, never been asked to vote. I mean, just last week I voted in the REI board election, or maybe it was last month. Publicly held companies asked me to vote as a shareholder in their elections. That's routine. I've been to annual meetings of publicly held companies. I don't even know when, where, or how my credit union has its annual meeting. Now,
so for the credit union of the future, how would we bring in that member voice in more?
Exactly. Well, I don't think a lot of them are that keen to do it because it wouldn't be that hard. I'm sure there's some little notice.
Why do you think that is?
The web page that, well, I don't know, but I'm sure there is a notice on the web page someplace about the annual meeting. But I only look at the phone app at this point, and I haven't seen it there. It's probably buried there someplace. But it's Hey, it's a cozy little club, I guess. I don't know. I mean, what do you think?
I can't even venture a guess as to why they're not opening up.
Now, have
'Cause
you ever voted in the board election at your
I
credit
have
union?
not. I have not.
Okay.
I will fully admit that. And I'm
Oh,
like,
it's
maybe I
no,
should
there's no
ask about
shame.
that.
It's no shame because I've never been sent a ballot. I think it's only in-person voting. And in my case, that would mean I have to go 2,500 miles to vote. And it's like, why?
To
it's
have a voice.
it's why I have a voice. That's one thing I have.
Oh, yes, you do, Robert.
But to go back to credit union of the future, that's definitely something worth talking about because, and I suspect the biggest credit unions are already thinking about that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure they're asking themselves a question, how do we stay competitive with the big banks but still maintain a credit union difference?
Yeah.
And if so, what is that credit union difference?
And actually, Robert, one of the things that I think about, tying this back to actually our very first conversation, we were talking about how AI is reshaping the workforce. I also think about how AI reshapes leadership. And I think in this example that you're drawing up, it is the role of leaders to really help their people get very clear on what truly differentiates them. And that's where you guys need to spend energy and skills and time developing, because it's not going to be the floor. It has to be the differentiated things. So exactly what you were talking about with the big credit unions, thinking about what will differentiate them. That's where leaders need to be thinking.
Yeah, and what stops that credit union from looking exactly like a miniature JP Morgan Chase?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And would it be so bad if they look like a miniature JP Morgan Chase? Well, in a way, yeah, because the obvious question is then why don't I just bank a Chase? Why settle for the miniature? I mean, it's all good stuff, and I hope you can find credit union people who want to talk about this because it's something they really should be talking about.
Before we go, think hard about how you can help support this podcast so we can do more interviews with more thoughtful leaders in the credit union world. What we're trying to figure out here in these podcasts is what's next for credit unions. What can they do to really, really, really make a difference in the financial scene? Can't all be mega banks, can it? It's my hope it won't all be mega banks. It'll always be a place for credit unions. That's what we're discussing here. So figure out how you can help. Get in touch with me. This is rjmcgarvey@gmail.com. Robert McGarvey. Again, that's rjmcgarvey@gmail.com. Get in touch. We'll figure out a way that you can help. We need your support. We want your support. We thank you for your support.